This is so horrible. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this new thing. I figured it out. I'm going to set it up to schedule YouTube so that all the subscribers know and all this great stuff. And it's never worked for me really the way I wanted it to. So it's been very frustrating to get it to start. Well, there's my voice coming on another computer so that it is actually working now. So I have to go turn that down before it drives me nuts. Anyways, so I collect old films and show them to folks like you. I'm sorry the lights are not bright enough. I'm going to adjust that right now. Is that better? I don't know. It's, I have these lights. They're not really. All right, and you can hear something in the background. Now that's too harsh. All right, 1 second, please. It's like, yeah, I tuned in for this guy, and all he did was just sit around and apologize about the lighting and the technology. Anyways, all right, so you're here to watch new films. I got, like I said, 1,400 to 2,000 films. I don't have an actual count yet because I haven't had a chance to actually catalog everything. But I pulled some titles, and I figured you guys would like to see these. So this first film is called Granton Trawler. I did not cheat. I did not look up to see what these films were actually about. So you're going to see them as I see them. And they might be great. They might be horrible. They might be so horrible that they're really great. If they get a little adult, if we start seeing people's privates, we might have to turn it off. But, that's part of the deal. All right, so here is Granton Trawler. Enjoy.
Then you're leaving, Joe. Half an hour. UIC got that same right last week. Stand by your throw. Alright, we'll go your throw. There's a boil here. If this weather gets any worse, it's going to be pretty hard on the paper tonight. Getting black through the water, you better point out the window then. You better ease on of it. Oh, he's a good mistake. You did that. Here you go. Now get going, boy. Here you go. Here you go. Right, here up. Right, see? We got flaming it. All the long stuff there. Right, you up. You in your kite. Wonder if you'll all go in more for that catfish.
What's Jimmy done that used to play with?
I don't know where they rented. You know where they rented, Joe?
Well, transfer, didn't he? Where did he go?
The transfer, ever. Good player, wasn't he?
Yes, I think if we managed to catch that Saturday morning, Chicago, we'll be able to see the Hearts and Motherwell playing, Saturday. That'd be a good game.
That Queen herself is getting a good team now.
Yes, that's on that.
Right.
Well, that's certainly been Friday night skipper, so we'll be able to chance of seeing the match.
Right.
What do you think about it? Anyway.
Motherwell, pretty good team.
Yeah, it's a strong side.
All right. Wow. That was action-packed. Yeah, I like those. I mean, this is definitely like a slice of life type of thing. You know, capturing what was happening on a fishing vessel trawler. And it's, yeah, someone I think commented that it was very calming, which I agree. I think it is pretty pretty calming. I'm gonna switch over to this camera. Well, all right, it's not perfect, but my other camera crapped out, and I'm not going to reboot the computer just to accommodate that. Yeah, so these are, like I said, these are films that I got from South Carolina. They were discarded, or they were no longer being used. I mean, like a lot of libraries, they're not using film anymore. So, pretty excited with some of these titles. I mean, there's some overlap with what I have, but that's part of the cataloging process, is trying to figure out what I have and what I don't have, etc. But yeah, if this was on cable television, if this was on the Discovery Channel or something like that, I would sit and watch it for 30 minutes. Just watch it happen. You know, not really any narration, not any crazy edits. Just let it run. Very much like that. All right, we got a lot of films to choose from here. And I don't know if you can tell, but like right here, there's a label that says electronically inspected, which means they ran it through a film inspection machine and they put a sticker on it. So these probably went through that process in the 80s, and nobody ever watched them for 30 years, coming up on 40 years. So we get to see them for the first time in decades, in a brand new millennium, a brand new century. It's kind of like we're opening up time capsules. See what happens. All right, this one. Again, I'm not cheating and seeing what a film is, but this one's called Color for Health. So I don't know what this is supposed to be, but there you go. Enjoy. But first, let me change the title. And switch over the sound.
As childhood passes and youth grows to adulthood, the toys and playthings of yesterday are discarded and forgotten. Today is a time of new challenges, new ideas, new responsibilities.
They say the world is ours. Who wants it?
We didn't ask to be here.
And now the moon, the universe, and all of space.
Sometimes I'm afraid.
It isn't our world now. This is more our world. What are they trying to make of us?
No more than you can be.
And what is that? What are we, really?
Well, let's take a good look at you. Actually, you each are a total of 3 different yous. There is a physical you, a mental you, and an emotional or spiritual you. And what you are as a whole person depends upon how fit you keep each of your different selves, because these selves vitally affect each other.
Oh, I see. When one of me is weak, then all of me is not as good as it could be. But how do I keep these three selves of mine healthy?
I think I know. Our parents and our church help us to learn how to live, and we study and we learn, and we exercise to keep ourselves physically healthy.
That and more. For instance, let this disc be you, the three yous, emotional, mental, and physical you. Take a closer look. It takes more than exercise to maintain physical health.
I agree. You have to have rest and sleep, too. I know I do.
And what about medical and dental care?
And food.
You both are right. Now let's make all three of these as active as we can. See how the total you is a blend of all three?
I see that all right. But what difference does it make if the blend isn't exactly right?
Well, if everyone were just like you, perhaps it wouldn't make any difference. You'd fit in nicely everywhere.
But everyone is not alike.
That's right. In my group, they're not all the same.
Nor in the group I'd like to join.
Yet every group wants to be better, to have the strongest members, and this requires that each member be strong physically, mentally, and emotionally.
It seems to me there ought to be some way we could strengthen all three at once.
There is. In your physical education classes,
Oh, come on now.
Well, the exercise part for physical health I can see all right.
But how does it exercise the emotional me?
That would be the part represented by the blue, wouldn't it?
it is. And have you ever thought about this? Learning to play by the rules develops sportsmanship, develops character, and so does learning to share the game.
I know it's fun to win, but when you lose, you have to know how to take it.
Right. And that's emotional and spiritual development.
You know, there's more to this than I thought there was.
I agree. But how does the third me, the intellectual me, work together with the other two?
It's like this, I think. Take any of the games we play, as a team or as a group. We have to think, then act, and play the game according to the rules, and like it.
I wish that thing would stop a minute.
That's easily enough done.
We said that food was part of keeping healthy.
That's right.
And I know we talk about food and diet in health education classes, but how important is it, really?
That's what I want to know, too. I'm not going out for any of the teams, so why should I worry about a balanced diet?
Maybe you can figure it out for yourselves, if you'll just let those mental cells of yours work for just a few minutes. Without any food, what would you be? There'd be no you at all. And it's not only enough food that you need, but the right food, too. Only with the right nutrition will you feel like doing the things you like to do and the things you have to do, and feel that you can be the one you'd like to be. Without the right nutrition, the chances are you just won't measure up to the standards of your group. Eating a complete diet will help your mental alertness and is a factor in emotional stability, too.
I guess I never really thought about it too much. But what should we eat?
What should you put on this table? What do you need? Well, first of all, you are warm-blooded beings.
So we need fuel for energy, just like the furnace in a building.
You want to be active, too.
And we need fuel for that. We proved that in our science class.
So you'll need some fuel on your table, won't you?
And I haven't stopped growing yet. So I suppose I should have something to build bone and other tissue.
And how about repairing and replacing tissues? Now here's another plate. Do you know what it's for?
I thought we'd covered everything.
Not quite. I like to have a lot of pep, to do the things I want to do and the things I have to do.
I like to look just as good as I can, and I like to feel good, too.
And for those reasons, you need something for pep, vitality, for the normal functioning of your bodies.
But what?
Well, you need minerals and vitamins for that pep and vitality. And you need fats, carbohydrates, and protein to furnish calories. And proteins and minerals from which bone and other tissues are built. This is the nutrition team that plays the game of helping to keep you healthy. Now watch what happens when one of these essentials is removed. Remember, when your diet is unbalanced, your physical self will not be healthy, and so your whole self suffers. You will not be as alert as you can be, and you'll be hard to get along with. You do want a full team, a strong team.
A good team, naturally, but one that looks like something good to eat.
Then how about this? Here is where your nutrition team comes from. Take protein, for instance. Protein comes from meats, eggs, dairy foods, dried beans, and from enriched and whole grain bread. How about minerals? These foods are rich in minerals, such as iron and calcium. Enriched and whole grain bread are important sources of minerals. And you recognize the vitamins character, don't you? Vitamin A comes from deep green and dark yellow vegetables, and from whole milk, butter, and margarine, too.
And I learned the other day that you have to have B vitamins to keep healthy.
Here are the best known of the B vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, and niacin. Thiamine is the vitamin most likely to be shorted in most diets. It is found in pork, enriched in whole grain bread and cereals, beans, and potatoes. Riboflavin is found in milk, enriched in whole grain bread and cereal, meats, and green vegetables. Niacin is found in poultry, fish, enriched in whole grain bread and cereals, and potatoes.
And I think you get vitamin C from fruits, tomatoes, potatoes, and leafy vegetables.
Yes, and there are other vitamins. Vitamin D, for example, that you get from the sun, from seafoods, and from fortified milk. You'll find that all foods carry calories, some more than others. You must have calories to stay alive. Of course, if you don't have enough, you'll be too thin. And if you have too many, well, just remember that the total of all you eat in one day depends upon how big you are, how active you are, and how efficient your body is. And when you eat, morning, noon, or evening, or even for snacks, remember that the full nutrition team will work for you only when you choose your food to include some of each of the basic 4 groups. Tomorrow, at breakfast, your most important meal, remember and choose wisely for the sake of your total health.
I suppose we should.
But it isn't always easy, especially when there's a choice.
But the choice is yours.
I think I understand. If I want to be healthy in every way, then I must try to make the right choice. And if I want to do that, I expect I'd better pay more attention to what they teach in physical education classes.
Me too. I hope that more and more I'll be making my own choices. And I'd be pretty stupid to make the wrong ones.
To choose between better and worse, that is the sacred privilege of every human being. Just how the choice is made depends upon each one, and upon what he or she really wants to be.
Unbelievable. Man, that was nuts. That was so crazy. Yikes. That was really, really, really insane. And it was also, I mean, I don't know if you noticed at the end, the color, it was Technicolor. So they spent a lot of money on this. And it was so weird. So Fred A. Niles, I think he was based in Chicago, industrial filmmaker. And they made a lot of industrial films like Jam Handy for a variety of different clients, and these were all sponsored films. So this was obviously sponsored by the American Baking Association, and at the beginning I had no idea where they were going. When they divided into the three colors and the three people and the big like horn speaker, I really did not. I was like, no idea whatsoever. But yeah, that was something else. So I do have another American Baker Association film that I got a long time ago, which talks about the importance of bread, and specifically why bread is healthy for you, because they add enrichment wafers. And I feel like that's what this film was getting at, was, we've enriched our flour with blah, blah, blah. And, man, that was just nuts. I love that. I'm so happy you guys got to see that, too. I had no idea what that film was about, and could not have guessed in a million years. Well, maybe in a million years. Maybe in, I don't know, maybe in a couple of years, I could have guessed. Wow. I don't know, we might just have to shut up shop right now and just end on a good note, because that was really, really nuts. I'm seeing a lot of new faces out there, so thanks guys for joining. Just as a brief intro, because I didn't really get an intro. I'm Skip Alzheimer, and I collect old 16mm educational films, like the real deal, the reels. And I have a telecine here. For some of you, this is an old hat. A telecine, which I thread the film up on, and then it's hooked up to a digitizing box, which is hooked up to a laptop, which is hooked up to the internet, which is hooked up to a company that rebroadcasts the stream to Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. I would love to think that some kid who's just watched somebody do a run-through of some video game switches over and watches Color for Health. That's why I do Twitch. I get maybe one or two people most watching it ever, but I think it's worth it that one or two people change their lives. Anyways, I just acquired a bunch of films, more films. It brings the total up to maybe 27,000 films. I don't know. It's not really a pissing contest. I'm not proud. I shouldn't be proud because I basically have a house that's filled with films. I have 2 storage spaces that are filled with films. I've kind of figured out a way to get it to pay for itself, but it's a lot. It's really a hobby that went way out of control. So let this be a cautionary tale. All right, so this next film, which I just threaded up and I didn't even really remember what the name was, is Wind at Work. So maybe we can find out why wind power is so horribly dangerous. Yeah, so here we go. Wind at Work. I know you hear me typing. Wind at Work. I have to switch over the.
The wind is at work. It carries a kite into the air. You can feel the strong wind push against the kite and carry it higher and higher. The wind helps an airplane to fly and helps to hold it aloft on a vast sea of air. A bird glides on moving air. It glides on the wind. The wind is sometimes strong, strong enough to push a sailboat through the water. The wind is sometimes violent and destructive. The wind is at work all over the surface of the earth, blowing sometimes gently and sometimes violently. Wind is moving air, and to know more about it, you must first know some things about air. Have you ever had a flat tire? There is not enough air inside this boy's tire right now. He forces air into the tire with a pump. Now the tire is firm. It holds up bicycle and boy without going flat. There must be something inside the tire holding it up. That something is air. Here's an experiment you can do. The balloon gets bigger because the man is forcing air into it. The more air, the bigger the balloon. In a little while, the force of the air within the balloon becomes greater than the strength of the balloon, and the balloon bursts. Another experiment shows you an important thing about air. Although we can't see it, we know that this bottle contains air. A balloon is placed over the mouth of the bottle. Now, air can neither get out of or into the bottle. The bottle is placed on an electric hot plate. This bottle is made of a special glass that will not break when heated. As the bottle gets warmer, the air it contains also gets warmer. The balloon swells because warm air takes up more space. It expands. Warm, expanding air rises upward. Now let's see what happens when air is cooled. A bucket of icy water is used to cool the bottle of warm air. Cool air takes up less space. Cool air contracts. The same thing that took place with the air in this bottle, when it was cool and when it was warm, takes place all around the earth. There is a blanket of air surrounding our earth. It's called the atmosphere. The atmosphere is constantly being heated and cooled. At times, warm sunlight heats the atmosphere in certain areas. This warm air expands. It takes up more space. It rises upward. Cooler air moves in to replace the warmer, rising air. The movement of the cooler air is what causes the wind, for wind is moving air. The winds that sweep across the earth are slowly yet constantly changing the appearance of the land. Nowhere is this more apparent than in an area of sand dunes. When the wind is at work here, the sands shift about, carried along by the moving air. Hundreds of tons of sand may be blown away and come to rest in another place. In time, the land will look quite different than it did before. New, strange forms appear, patterned by the restless wind. The wind sometimes works for man and sometimes against him. On many farms, the force of moving air is used to turn a windmill, and so helps the farmer do his work. But sometimes, the wind that blows across farm areas causes damage to the land. Strong winds may carry away the good soil in which food crops are growing. Then the result of the wind's work is a poor crop for the farmer, or perhaps no crop at all. When the strong wind carries with it fine bits of sand and dust, it can cut and change the shape of the hardest rocks. Many strange rock formations are often partly the result of the cutting action of sand hurled against the hard rocks by the wind. This process is not one that takes place in a few years, or even a few hundred years. Thousands of years have passed since the sandy winds first began to shape these rocks. And the process still continues, so that thousands of years from now, the rocks may look quite different than they do today. One of the most useful jobs the wind does is to help scatter the seeds of plants. The wind aids the common tumbleweed in scattering its seeds. Blown by moving air, the tumbleweed rolls along, its seed shaken loose along the way. Each seed of the milkweed plant is attached to a feather-like carrier. The wind carries the seeds away to a new area for growth, perhaps a distance of several miles. The seeds of a huge cottonwood tree are scattered by the wind. Cottonwood seeds are contained in small pods. When the seeds ripen, the pods open. The seeds are contained in a cotton-like material that floats away on the wind. The wind serves us in another way, for it helps make the weather. Clouds often form as a result of shifting winds. Many clouds contain water. We see here the effect of the wind in forming and moving clouds. What we are seeing in a few seconds actually took place over a period of several hours. When warm and cool air masses meet, the air often becomes a swirling, unquiet sea of clouds. The clouds grow bigger and blacker until the moisture they contain falls onto the earth below. Moisture that comes as rain or snow, hail or fog, is most important, for it provides every single thing that lives and grows with the water that is so necessary to life. The moving air that is the wind is at work, affecting and changing the earth upon which we live. The wind helps a kite to fly and helps a bird to glide. It helps an airplane speed through the open sky. The wind pushes a sailboat and brews a violent storm. The wind shifts and shapes sand dunes and changes the look of the land, even the hardest, rockiest mountains. The wind sometimes blows away the good soil from farmlands. It helps scatter plant seeds all over the earth. It causes clouds to form and bring moisture to the land. These are some of the ways we can see the wind at work, affecting the earth upon which we live.
All right, so that was a different change of pace for a couple of reasons. Basically, somebody noticed the color shifted. Yeah, that was Eastman Color Ectochrome, and it faded to a beautiful amber color. We have scanning technology. We're able to kind of get some of that color back. It's never going to be as good as it was, but we've had some pretty good results, and we get better as we go because we have so many films that have faded. And part of the reason, I mean, so the last film we saw, which was The Color for Health, was Technicolor. Technicolor uses a 3-color dye process and is, phenomenal, and the colors don't fade. So that's why it was stunning color. It's more expensive, much more expensive. And a lot of these educational film companies, they would make educational films, and they knew that they had a limited lifespan, like 5 years, maybe, and then they would make maybe a new revised edition. So they didn't feel like it was necessary to use good film stock. They would go with the cheap stuff, the easy stuff. So, somewhere out there is probably a negative that was made that is of good film stock. And sometimes they would actually strike like a Kodachrome or a Technicolor print for the filmmaker, things like that. But a lot of times it was just red, it was just Eastman Color, which just faded red. It's kind of like with newspaper, newsprint is not meant to last. It deteriorates very quickly because they make it as cheap as possible because they knew that there's not really value for the vast majority of people, subscribers, to invest in higher quality paper stock. So basically, anytime I see a red film, I'm sad, but I'm also reminded of the fact, like, oh, we weren't supposed to watch this film. This film was supposed to be discarded long ago and not shown. And so, congratulations to us for keeping it. Alright, what else do we got here? This might be good. I've got a bunch of our game comedies too, and Woody Woodpecker cartoons, which I will try not to show, but I don't know. Maybe one day. One day we'll show it. Alright, this one is my glasses on. Little Smokey. So, what do we think? Do we think this is about Smokey the Bear? Or Smokey Bear? Do we think that it's about a little cigarette? I mean, after Color for Health, and who knows? I really have no idea. There's been I've watched a couple of films. I did a screening locally in Raleigh where I pulled a bunch of films. I brought like 20 films, and I had the audience kind of choose their own adventure and pick which ones they wanted to watch. And it was all over the place. It was really amazing. So I love getting a new collection so I can kind of go through and just pick films and just say, like, I don't know what this is. I should also say thank you to somebody who, I can't remember, Paul7, for contributing to Patreon. Patreon is one way that you can help support AV Geeks. We rented a truck, which was about $600 to go and pick up all these films. And then, there's the expense of the gas and there's all this other stuff. So, it's not a cheap hobby. It can be inexpensive, but compared to other hobbies. But when you do something like picking up thousands of something, then you end up having to pay for it. So Patreon is one of those ways that helps kind of make it not so difficult. And I appreciate your support for that. I also appreciate you spreading the word and telling other people to watch it and all that stuff. So thank you for that. All right, so here's Little Smokey.
Hi there. Well, what you doing away back there? Come on up here. It's about a four-legged friend of mine. No, I don't mean Topper back there. This happened a while back in the beautiful Capitan Mountain country of New Mexico, on the Lincoln National Forest.
It was daytime on the Capitan, dry and hot, but still nice and peaceful. All the animals in the forest were having a grand old time in the sunshine of spring. There was one little 3-month-old fellow in particular who didn't have a care in the world. He was spending his time having fun, a-growling and a-prowling and a-scratching.
That's right. That bear cub didn't have a care in the world. Then somebody, a two-legged somebody, got careless.
It took several hundred men 5 days to lick that fire. 17,000 acres of timber were destroyed. Timber that could have been used for homes and furniture, along with the mills that could have turned it out. A lot of wild animals lost their homes. Many lost their lives. But there was one little fellow who somehow survived that terrible fire.
Yes, the little bear cub came through. He was found clinging to what was left of a small tree.
Bell rushed that burned and frightened cub to the nearest animal hospital by plane. Warden Bell saw to it that he was given the best of care. His burned feet responded to treatment. His hair grew back, and with his little belly full of good food, he grew fat and sassy. They named him Little Smokey, and in a special Piper Cub plane took him on another trip by air. This time it was clear across the country, over America's farms, factories, and cities. Finally, little Smokey and his plane landed in Washington, our nation's capital. Here, along with his official escort, New Mexico's Assistant State Game Warden, Homer C. Pickens, Little Smokey was greeted in the rain by a very enthusiastic committee. Chief Forester Lyle Watts accepted Little Smokey as a gift to the state foresters and Uncle Sam's Forest Service from the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish.
But for our little hero, that welcome in the rain was only the beginning of a new and very worthwhile life.
On the first sunny day, Little Smokey was presented to the National Zoo in Washington and became a living symbol of forest fire prevention. The kids went for the whole idea like a bear goes for honey. And Little Smokey seemed to like the new setup, too. It was really a big occasion. Senator Chavez of New Mexico was there to welcome his former constituent to his home in the zoo. The state foresters joined in dedicating the life of Little Smokey to the school children of America to serve as an honest-to-goodness reminder of the danger of forest fires and the need to save our forests and wildlife from destruction by fire.
You're probably wondering if Little Smokey has lived up to all the fine things that were planned for him. You can take my word for it, he has.
You see, I had a personal invitation to visit Little Smokey a while back. Of course, he's kind of a big Smokey now. A year or so will do that to a bear. I was mighty glad to see him, and I soon learned that I wasn't the only one. That Smokey is a famous character, all right. He sure liked the oranges I brought him. But I'd do that for any forest fire preventing pal.
I hate forest fires worse than all the diamondback rattlesnakes in the world. That's why I've tried to do my little bit toward preventing them.
I guess that's why the forestry boys were on hand, too, and why they gave me a special certificate making me an honorary forest ranger. That really made me proud because it put me right on Smokey's team. Of course, Smokey had to check the document to see if it was genuine and scratch his seal of approval on it. On that trip, I learned just how much good Smokey has done in preventing man-caused forest fires. Mostly as a model for those car cards and posters you see most everywhere. Smokey and his important message sure get around. On mail trucks along the city streets, in the buses and trolley cars, in the woods, why, even in the comics. And now there's a song about Smokey the school children all over this great country of ours can sing and take to heart.
With the ranger's hat, a shovel, and a pair of dungarees, you will find him in the forest, always sniffing at the breeze. People stop and pay attention when he tells them to beware, because everybody knows that he's a fire preventing bear. Smokey the Bear, Smokey the Bear, growling and growling and sniffing the air. He can find a fire before it starts to flame. That's why they call him Smokey, that was how he got his name. If you've ever seen the forest when the fire's running wild, and you love the things within it like a mother loves her child, then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful, it's the least that you can do. Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear, a living reminder to all of us today of the need to protect our forests and wildlife for the good of all those who follow us in the future. Well, that's the story of Smokey Bear, your friend and mine. But Smokey needs our help, so let's all be careful of fires in the forest, always. And remember, only we, you and I, can prevent forest fires. So long for now, partners.
I gotta say, man, this collection is great. It's been so great so far. Hopalong Cassidy in color. I think, I believe, and this could be wrong, I helped write an article in a chapter in a book on advertising, and I feel like Sugar Bear got introduced on Hopalong Cassidy show, like the cereal. It was one of the first children's cereal. It was marketed to children. It was pre-sweetened cereal, and so there's another bear that Hopalong Cassidy introduced to the world. So there you go. He was very successful. There was all these cowboy shows. I mean, this is, if you were a little boy or a little girl, in the 50s, cowboys, all about cowboys, nonstop. And then it was only after the space race started, then it was about astronauts. So. Little Smokey. That was really great. I don't want to jinx us here, but there might not be a stinker in a whole bunch. Although some people might think that Wind at Work was a stinker. Here's another example of the the sticker that says inspected electronically. I used to have a roll of those stickers that came with one of my film inspectors. At some point I might have to make more of them just because they're so great. You can stick them on anything and make somebody feel happy that whatever you stuck it to has been electronically inspected. So this one, again, no idea. I pulled based on titles. I just looked at titles, and if I felt like it was a title that was provocative enough, or if it just kind of made me think, like the hairs on the back of my neck were like, I think this might be interesting. Because there are some dry ones. I mean, Wind at Work is a traditional science film made by Pat Dallin Films, and it's, it was probably the driest one, but Color of Health, like, what does that mean? Definitely felt like that was going to be some sort of promotional film or something. I didn't know what that was. Little Smokey, of course, was hoping it was Smokey Bear, and it was. This film is called Remember Me. Who knows, man? Who knows what this is? So enjoy.
You remember me, don't you? I drive the silver one. The other one. That's it. Nice little car. Snappy. Good mileage. Something I plan to take care of so she'll last.
Just made it. Mine's the silver one there. Tune up?
Oh, yeah, it's not ready. Give me a call tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Around noon.
You remember me now, don't you? I'm the customer. I'm the customer in the bank, too. The one on his lunch hour. Waiting in bank lines is not my idea of fun, especially when it appears to be unnecessary. But I try not to let it get to me. I try to be philosophical.
Next.
Good morning.
Is this your signature, sir?
Well, yes.
May I see some identification?
Okay.
I keep thinking, maybe this time they'll remember me. Well, I've been banking here long enough. I try not to take it personally. After all, people in banks have to be careful when they handle money. But on the other hand, it's my money. I shop in this market mainly because it's close to the house. I know checkers have their problems too. Backache, sore feet. So I make allowances. Up to a point. Some people make a scene. I don't. This store has nice shirts. It also has a pretty elusive sales force.
Excuse me, I wonder if...
You'll have to wait your turn, sir. I have a customer.
Okay, salespeople do have a lot of pressure on them. But is that any excuse? I'll let it go for now, but make no mistake about it. In the long run, I'll win.
Janice, did you confirm my rental car? Oh, great, thanks.
Good morning.
I work hard. A lot of it's paperwork.
Mr. Stone, pick up line 6.
And the copy machine saves me a lot of time. When it's working.
Do you have any idea when you'll have this thing repaired?
Oh, it's hard to say. Maybe Thursday.
Excuse me, but your office did say it would be fixed by last Thursday.
Oh, did they? Well, what can I say? See you tomorrow.
Who needs a duplicator that makes copies in red, white, and blue? I'd rather have one that works. And I'd rather have a service rep who cares. Traveling gets some people down, but not me. Even when I rack up 50,000 miles a year, I still enjoy it. A change of scenery gets me out of my rut, breaks the routine, gives me a sense of adventure.
Morning. I reserved a compact.
Credit card and license?
Sure. There you are.
Mr. Michael Lloyd to the nearest white courtesy telephone.
Billy? Have we got any compacts left down there? I've got a customer here who says he's made a reservation. Yeah. Oh, what have you got? Okay. We haven't got any compacts left, sir.
When I have to compromise, I do. But I don't forget. This hotel isn't cheap, but they promise good service. And that's something I'm willing to pay for.
Good morning. This is 327. I ordered breakfast at 9:30, and, well, that was 45 minutes ago. I wonder if somebody down there could...
I got no order for room 327.
Oh, well, I'll order again then. Let's see. Scrambled eggs and bacon, wheat toast.
Sorry, we stopped serving breakfast, sir.
I can forgive a mistake, but that kind of attitude I can't forgive. Well, it's good to get home again. No more hassles.
Oh, yeah, it's not ready.
You'll have to wait for a turn, sir. I have a cup.
We haven't got any compacts left, sir.
I got no order for room 327.
Could you send again, please? Nick.
Give me a call tomorrow.
You'll have to wait your turn, sir.
I put up with a lot, really. Rudeness, lack of consideration, just plain stupidity. But you know something? In spite of all that, I always win in the end. Because, you see, I'm the customer. I know all banks really offer is service. Otherwise, they're nearly the same. And there are dozens of banks. Supermarkets, hotels, department stores, practically on every corner. Office duplicators, car rental companies, beating each other half to death for my business. Airlines, lots of them, and all flying where I want to go. So let's face it, there are an awful lot of companies out there, all pretty much selling the same things. And we customers, ordinary people like me, we've got a lot of problems already. We've got health problems, family problems, job and boss problems, even dog, cat, and crabgrass problems. We don't really need any more problems. So, if we can't get good service, we leave. We don't say much. We don't complain. We just don't come back. Ever.
And that's not the whole story. We customers get around, and we stick together.
Good afternoon, sir. Bill it today?
Sure. Might as well.
Really great mileage on those things, huh? Where'd you buy it?
Arts Motors.
Oh, yeah. What's their service department like over there? Not bad, huh? Thanks. I appreciate the tip.
You see, we do win in the end, because we're the customers. We may not always complain about bad service, but we don't forget.
Battery's okay, oil's down a hair, but it's okay.
Oh, fine. Thanks.
On the other hand, we're hungry for good service. So when we find courteous, efficient, well-trained people, and that little bit extra being done for us, well, it generates a feeling of trust. We actually want to come back.
All set, sir. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Say, I'm about due for an oil change and lube. How about Saturday?
Sure. Can you be in by 9?
I'll be here.
Okay, see you later.
That's all there is to it, really. You treat us as individuals, and we'll see you as individuals. Things are just easier for all of us that way. It's simple. I'll remember you if you'll just remember me.
So everybody was expecting him to have a freak out and come back with a gun. Because as a customer service person, you know, being a customer, you certainly feel that way. I've worked retail. I've been on both ends of it, man. It's no fun. So they would have shown this film, of course, to salespeople or customer service people to make them feel guilty, make them aware of the fact that their customers are need to be remembered and need to be addressed and treated like people. It's almost always a management problem, though. I would say management sets the tone. So, but yeah, a lot of people went for Falling Down, Michael Douglas film. CRM, I can't remember what CRM stands for. It's, but it is something management films. It's, I don't think it's customer relations management, because there's other CRM films that deal with other things, business and other, but almost all of them are management related or business related. There's some interesting Psychology Today ones from CRM. Yeah, remember me. All right. Cool. All right, hits just keep on coming. This one doesn't seem to have a title on it. Just has 211B. So let's see what happens. Sometimes that happens, the label comes off, or whatever the library this is part of used. There's program notes in here, but I'm not going to look at them. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to let this be a surprise to everybody. Anyways, so some archives or libraries don't put titles on their cans. They put like numbers, which I've always thought was problematic. It means you have to like look at a database to figure out what it is. And I've never got a really good explanation why that's the case. It seems like you want to have something human readable in case that database is not accessible. That's at least my take on it. I'm sure if I went to library science, I would learn otherwise, but there you go. Well, it's a Julian Bryan film. Okay, so it's going to be something international. Julian Bryan traveled the globe. It's a travelogue person, an educational film person, and captured a lot of interesting things. So let's see what this is. Enjoy. Well, that just kind of ended. Oops. That was weird. Oops. Not really any weirder. Anyhow, wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess they ate the chicken, which is okay. I've seen worse sacrifices. So, there's a couple in that series, though, the Doggone People. There's some of other types of magic rites. So, let's see what the program notes say. How we live. Let's actually paste it in here. It has a little thing written by Julian Bryan. I believe that children like to be left alone to make their own discoveries. I believe that we filmmakers have too long preached at children, often with dull narration. We have given all the answers and left nothing for pupils to discover. How exciting now to make new short films which raise questions instead of answering them and which involve children. So, there are, let's see, Magic Rites Divination by Animal Tracks, Magic Rites Divination by Chicken Sacrifice, Masked Dances, Annual Festival of the Dead, Hunting Wild Doves, which I have that, Daily Life of the Bozo, Fishing on the Niger River. I actually have some of these in my collection. But, fascinating. Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, you want kids to explore. You don't want to beat the answers into them. And so then this is a jumping off point. A good teacher would then take this and then say, like, all right, so what do we know about the Doggone People? Like, you know, send somebody to the library and go get an encyclopedia. You know, learn about other cultures. You know, how is, you know, all the questions that you were asking about, like, well, they just ate it. I mean, how's that different than, you know, when my mom makes chicken? Like, what makes that a magic right? You know, are they saying something beforehand? Are they drinking something? You know, all that stuff. So, that one was great. I mean, obviously, I love these types of movies, so have I found a film that I have not been great? Who knows? All right. Alright, I picked this one because, I don't know, it's yet another one that I'm not sure about. It has a title. I'm hoping it is what I think it is. I have a guess what it could be, but it might not be. It might be something totally different. It's Sinbad the Sailor is the title. And so we can go lots of different ways with this. I'm hoping it's a Popeye cartoon. Made by the Fleischer Brothers, but we will see. Enjoy.
treasures everywhere, gold and silver jewels rare. So we are pirates of the deep blue sea. Yo-ho-dee-hi-dee-ho. Shiver me timbers, gold! Give him the works, boys.
Okay, so I just posted to comments. We'll have one more film. They're longer films. So you have a choice of 3 titles. Please enter in the comments which one you would like to see. Come Where My Love Lies, Dreaming. Serving All Mankind, Power for Peace. So, Come Where My Love Lies, Dreaming. Serving All Mankind, Power for Peace. Pick. Peace is spelled P-E-A-C-E, by the way. Not the other way. I'm going to start rewinding here. And by the end of it, a little unfortunate blackface there at the end. Like I said, I have all these Our Gang and Little Rascal, and I'm hesitant. I mean, I used to love those films as a kid, but they are not culturally sensitive. I mean, they're just dumb cartoons. So, I don't know. I might watch a couple and see if I can find some that don't have buckwheat or Farina doing something really horrible. But I gotta, Ub Iwerks, man. Somebody pointed out he used to be a Disney animator, struck out on his own. And he kind of struck out on his own, did his own thing, and really good animator. I have another film he did called Simple Simon that I uploaded to YouTube today. And a lot of these films I'm going to be uploading individually to YouTube. Along with, as I was saying, another collector whose stuff we've been scanning for the last year and a half. Greg Pierce of Oregon Archives in Pittsburgh. We've been digitizing a bunch of his stuff. So we're going to start putting that stuff online. That was great. Okay. I'm going to quickly go to the comments and do a quick tally. So enter in your thing now. Here we go, we're going. I have to go to another room to look at the comments. Right. So we got Power. Surveying all mankind. Quick look. Takes it. Power for Peace. People on Facebook wanted. You can't even hear me. I'm sorry. I'm way in the background. Yeah, I have to go into another room to actually read the comments. So, a lot of people wanted Dreaming on one. And a lot of people made the Serving All Mankind joke from Outer Limits? Twilight Zone? Oh boy. Wow, this is... Oh man. Power for Peace has a really bent reel. Let's see. Look at that. Holy cow. Alright. We're going to show Power for Peace, but I'm going to have to put it on another reel. In the meantime, let me find a film that you can watch. Give me a sec. Give the people what they want. This one, just pulling it randomly, trends is what it's called. Launch trends real quick. This could be a really boring statistics film. I don't know. We'll see. We'll totally see. In the meantime, I'll have to put power piece on a real reel, so because that would not work on this machine. I would just scrape and scrape. All right. Here's trends. Something that nobody asked for. Here we go. Enjoy.
If you keep on flattening out a circle, eventually you get a straight line. If you know the past and the present, you should be able to tell the shape of the future.
Good Lord. I stepped away to rewind the film, and I come back and it's insane. Plus, like 60 people just joined. Did somebody create a watch party or something, or share it somewhere? Because that's glorious. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, Hungarian. I saw just before I left. I had to rewind a film. I saw. Let me get back to you and see what I look like. I saw a thing that said Hungarian films. So I knew the animation was going to be good, and it was going to be non-narrative, but I had no idea where it was going. No idea. So, yeah. Anyway, so I put the film that everybody chose, Power for Peace, and on another reel because the other one was bent. I had to throw that reel away. But yeah, wow. Just picking a random fill-in thing. Pretty amazing. Okay. So just as a recap, since 50 people joined on Facebook at the last minute. Anyways, I collect old educational films. My name is Skip Alzheimer. I do this once a month. And we're watching actual 16mm films being broadcast through the internet. And we have no idea what we're watching. This is the last film I'm going to show before we end. And I let the studio audience pick the film, which was Power for Peace. Although Dreaming was really close. It was very, very close. So, here we go. Power for Peace. But thanks everybody for tuning in and sharing the videos with other people in your timelines. I love showing these films, and the more people I can show them to, the happier it makes me. And doing it I do it live. I do a series of shows in Raleigh, North Carolina. I travel. I'm actually going to be in New York City. I'm going to be doing a home movie day at MoMA in 2 weeks, I think. Part of a home movie exhibit that they just opened. So I'll be there. So that's going to be fun. So if you're in New York, in Manhattan, come see me. Okay. Anyway, so here it is. You guys asked for it. Power for Peace. Is that what it says? Power for Peace. Enjoy.
Today, the Western world is building its defenses.
defenses to prevent a war it does not want. Slowly, reluctantly, 12 nations of free Europe, together with Canada and the United States, had turned to the heavy task of mobilizing their industrial might, their manpower, science, and natural resources, because in today's world of Soviet aggression, the only safety is in strength. In plants all over Western Europe, work is pushing ahead to build the weapons that alone can make foreign aggression too costly and therefore impossible. Ships from America, laden with military and economic aid, are pouring their cargoes into European ports to help in the common task of erecting a vast defensive shield. Cooperation among the Atlantic nations grows daily, pledged not only in material and equipment, but in the lives of their citizens as well. Divisions from the United States, both ground and air forces, have been assigned to permanent duty overseas to help the growing armies of Western Europe in holding the line. To millions of young men, North Americans and Europeans alike, the times have brought the grim necessity of learning a second trade. For to go on living and working as they want, they must be equipped to defend, if necessary, their chosen way of life against the forces which today threaten all free nations and all free peoples. In the great international protective force, the nations of the Atlantic community are welding together, there is clearly rising the greatest obstacle yet to the communist aim of world domination. So, "Go home, Eisenhower," became the red slogan from end to end of the continent, and Moscow ordered all Europe's communists into immediate action. The Kremlin's alarm is betrayed by the frantic mouthings of thousands of obedient party members, all shouting the same theme.
Create per provocare una guerra d'aggressione.
Down with our new forces of fascism. Down with our capitalist, imperialist warmongers.
Warmongers? Imperialists? Well, let's look at the record. Let's go back. Back to VE Day 1945. The war was over in Europe. In a few more weeks, it would be over everywhere. The Western nations, with unspeakable relief, hastened to disband their victorious forces. Embarking for home, the huge American army faded away, leaving behind only a few regiments for occupation duties overseas. The war was over. In America, as in Europe, the one thought was to get back to blessed peace. Millions of tons of equipment were left to rust and to rot where the war's end had overtaken them. Then the people of Europe went to work, clearing away the debris of violence, effacing its scars. With whatever materials, whatever tools were at hand, they began restoring, piecing together, rebuilding, striving to recreate the pattern of life they had known and loved. But not all Europe had given priority to peace. Russia's gigantic military machine stood almost intact, by far the biggest still left in the world. Its military budget was nearly as high as in wartime. For auxiliary forces, it had the growing armies of its satellite nations, nations once free, which the Kremlin had reduced by pressure from without and treason from within. Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania and Albania, East Germany, and finally Czechoslovakia. In Berlin, communists were doing their best to turn Germany's capital into a drawn and quartered city. In Greece, a savage guerrilla war inspired by Moscow was being supported and prolonged by communist help from across the borders. In Italy, the biggest communist party in Western Europe was stirring up revolutionary turmoil. And everywhere the communist technique was to break the peace, to promote economic chaos, and to delay recovery. For among people bogged down in poverty and misery, communism gains ground most easily. Moscow's loudest propaganda guns were trained from the start upon the Marshall Plan, already showing results in its peaceful campaign to restore Europe to economic health.
The whole world knows that the so-called Marshall Plan is just another American imperialist scheme to build up a new fascist army and incite Europe to an attack on peace-loving Russia. All these peace...
Tutte queste spedizioni pseudo-pacifiche, di utensili, di fertilizzanti e di materie prime, che cosa sono se non l'avanguardia di una nuova aggressione fascista? Un nuovo attentato dei fautori di guerra di
Nous les
Washington.
retrouvons, ces serviteurs dévoués de Wall Street, tout à leur mission démoniaque, qui entraînent l'Europe dans une nouvelle lutte pour l'asservissement des peuples.
The truth was, Western Europe was wholly unequipped, even to defend itself. American troops in Europe numbered barely 100,000. France had only 500,000 men under arms. Britain the same. The Netherlands and Italy not 500,000 between them. Fewer still in Belgium, Denmark, Norway, and Greece combined. Against these stood the huge Red Army, 4.5 million strong, with the buffer armies of its satellite nations totaling 2.5 million more. Controlling and disposing these immense forces was a monolithic police state bent on world domination. The same kind of massive and brutal dictatorship the world had seen before, to its cost. The dictatorships cannot be appeased. The free world had learned. Their ultimate aim is war. And when in Korea, red aggression struck openly, the free nations knew they must act together or go down to conquest one by one. Meeting at Brussels, the North Atlantic Treaty Nations agreed that the time had come to build up a joint force for mutual protection. A force strong enough to discourage any aggressor. A community armed to keep the peace. General Eisenhower was called in to organize, unify, and lead the new protective force. Together with General Juin of France as his top field commander, and Field Marshal Lord Montgomery of Britain as his deputy, he appointed an international staff. The French army became the backbone of Western European defenses. Today it is steadily growing in size, strength, and effectiveness, like the rest of the North Atlantic forces. To help equip the fighting men of France, guns, tanks, and vehicles are coming from America through the new Mutual Defense Assistance Program. In addition, great quantities of military equipment are being turned out by French industry. French tanks in service with the North Atlantic forces are among the heaviest in Europe. Backing up the land army is a recreated French Air Force with the latest in jet planes. And France's rebuilt Navy, with its own air arm, is back on the seas again, ready to play its part in the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. Beside France stand the other free European countries. Belgium's Navy, like its ground and air groups, is already working with NATO forces. Denmark has pooled its navy and its army with those of its allies. The Netherlands has pledged 3 divisions. Britain has by now close to 1 million men under arms, as well as Western Europe's strongest navy and air force. The United States quota of 6 divisions has already arrived. Canada's fighting men are back in the Europe they helped liberate in 1944. Italy's three-division army is being expanded. In Norway, every able-bodied man is trained and ready. Behind these defense forces stands all the immense economic power of the whole free world, all the brains and skill of its scientists. Men who harness atomic power today stand ready, if need be, to contribute new and more powerful weapons to its defense. All the free world's overwhelming industrial might, a productive capacity many times greater than that of the combined communist nations. By far the most and richest of the Earth's food-producing soil lies within the free world, and to make it yield, there are millions of peasants and farmers who know that under communism, they would soon lose not only their land, but also their independence. Like all free men everywhere, they look to the day when all their energies can be devoted to the building of a better and a more secure life. But they know that for now there is another task that must share priority, the task of self-defense. And so it is that free men everywhere have reluctantly come to the determination to sacrifice today for the survival of all that they believe in, for tomorrow when the flags of freedom can finally fly over a world not menaced by war, and dedicated to progress and well-being for all, because free men remembered that eternal vigilance is the price of peace.
Well, they can't all be winners. I mean, I liked it. There was certainly no trends, but yeah, thanks for picking it, and thanks for joining us. It looks like we got, thanks to Bill Taylor, we got shared with Incredibly Strange Films, which is a user group. It's a Facebook group. That's where we got the sudden jump to like 70 some people. So that was nice. Thank you, Bill. And then supposedly they have a pretty strict political policy, no politics. And so this, you know, it's history, but yeah, it can be political. So then it went away, which is why suddenly everybody left. But some people kind of jumped on. So thank you for that. Anyways, thanks again. Wow, this was quite a night. I'm looking forward to 2020, exploring more of these films. I mean, this was really doing no research. This is just pulling titles. Just that gave me a feeling. So we might have to do something like this again soon. I'll try to get back to doing some themed things. But thanks again so much for your support and for sharing it. I mean, this is really why I do what I do, is I like to share this stuff whenever I can. And streaming on Facebook and YouTube seems to be a really easy way to get it into people's living rooms and things. So thank you so much. If you like what you saw, you can do things like pay some money on Patreon. You can share what we've done. We have a bunch of stuff cataloged or things archived in the past from on YouTube and Facebook. You can buy DVDs at avgeeks.com. You know, I'm not in this for the money. This is a constant spending. I mean, I am making money, but it's not for just showing films to people. It's a totally different thing. But again, thank you so much. Thank you for your support in 2019. Showing films to you guys makes it all worthwhile for me, and your comments are really nice. And so hopefully you have a good New Year's, and I will see you again next year, sometime in January. So, arrivederci. Peace and power.